about where we are from an intel point of view now, guys. Um, the interesting thing about Iraq, since sometimes we start with Iraq is basically underway. They have done everything that we know of, except have their rate posted for the Iraqi dinar on their CVI website. And my latest understanding on that today is that they intend to do that and show that rate tomorrow. I think that is a major thing when that happens. If it does happen tomorrow, it could trigger some things for us. I know they had their big day of celebration yesterday in Iraq. Remember all those thousands of plantings that they imported to bring in and plant for the special day of celebration yesterday? In Iraq, funny thing, guys, Iraq is still under a major blackout right now, information blackout. In or out of Iraq, there's just nothing coming out, hardly anything. The only way we know anything about it is calling our direct contacts who have family in Iraq, and we get a little bit by phone that comes out on that. For example, we know that some of the contacts that we have that are Iraqi citizens that live in the United States and have dual citizenship, they were told that they will be getting a major raise in their accounts through Rafidian Bank, probably between today and the 13th. So that's a good indicator when they're told that they're going to have an increase in their pay, or an increase in their retirement, or an increase in their profit sharing from their oil revenues. All of that is going to be reflected probably as a result of a rate change as well. So that's good news coming from Iraq, even though it's very, very tough to get anything out of there right now. The other thing is, internationally, we've always heard that this is that the RV would come, or the RVGCR would come from east to west, and that apparently is what is happening now. There are other parts of Europe, for example, or close to Europe, that are blacked out right now. Things are definitely moving, it appears, from east to west. And there's, even like we have a blackout of information out of Iraq, we also are finding that that's true on the communications that are normally made through some of the larger international banks. They have gone quiet. They've gone dark. Their communications had a cease and desist order put on, so that things that normally you might pick up a little information here and there, that's gone away. That's a good sign, though. Even though we don't like to be in the dark, sometimes it's a good sign that things are really happening. When you come back over here to our country, we know that there are bankers that have, we've heard different opinions, what they're saying on when this is all going to happen for us. And, some of them are still saying this week or by the weekend. We know that it's right there for us. It's just not quite here to us yet in the way of an 800 number, a toll-free number. We thought that we might have been there in the last day or so, but there's also some information that we've heard that indicates that maybe we are coming to the end of another 72-hour window whereby the USN is being used and utilized and traded now. That's a good thing. But we're also hearing that the banks are in process of going from Basel III to Basel IV compliance. And when they go from 3 to 4, it means a much larger percentage of the money that would be on deposit for them would be insured. And then less of it would need to be reinsured through Lloyd's of London. So as we move from Basel III to Basel IV compliance, that's a very positive thing for our banking system. And our understanding is that should be complete sometime tomorrow. We've also heard that the possibility of the RV and the GCR for us going maybe tied in directly as a result of that going through. And so there's a few things that are still moving slowly, but they're moving positively for us for this to be revealed. The other thing is the timing of this is difficult, because we know, for example, that there's only so much money that our country, government, treasury, let's call it, wants to come into the actual economy over a period of time. And I think there's a number somewhere in the vicinity of $850 billion that they have as sort of a limit, if you will, on the amount of money that is going to be allowed to, for the time being now, we're talking like right now, to be able to be put into our economy every 48 hours. So every couple of days, there's sort of a limit on the total amount that can be released. I don't expect, obviously that number's going to change when we get our start. It'll have to change, but for right now, they don't want the economy coming in with huge amounts that'll offset or upset the movement of the economy. Even though you can plainly see the market continues to go up, and it may be going up continuously with new highs. It seems like almost every day, as a result of new influx of capital coming into that market. I think that could be part of the reason that that's happening. So keep that in mind. But it's almost like there's a governor on our acceleration of our economy that's being there on purpose, so that they can limit the amount of expansion that's taking place right now. And I understand that for the first 31 days of our exchanges, we may have a limit of about $3.2 billion that we can have to get out those funds that we have exchanged into the economy in terms of land purchases or putting them into our project funds and so on and so forth. So we might have a little bit of a limit on what we can do in the first month as far as getting use of those funds, not moving those funds, not wiring those funds, but having access to and spending and utilizing those funds might have a little limit on that. I don't think it's going to handicap anybody too much from doing that. But there has been a lot of funding moving into paymasters accounts, and therefore those accounts are being hydrated, but not everyone is getting access to their funds yet. It's sort of, I think it comes in line with the concept of only so much money is allowed right now to come into the economy. And that's where I mentioned that limit of about $850 billion every 48 hours. So that may be limiting people to some extent that are doing exchanges or that are doing other types of meetings out west. So everything, though, is very, very quiet, coming not only from the banks, but also from, let's say, people that are under very serious NDAs, not to discuss their transactions, not to discuss their tabletop meetings, and so it's very quiet. The intel is sort of limited, and I think that's a good sign. I just think it's a very good sign. So we have the possibility of waiting for the end of the Basel IV compliance timeline, which we understand should be up sometime tomorrow, and then I think we still have a shot between now and the weekend. We do have Martin Luther King Day on Monday. There's our 3-day weekend, which may or may not mean anything as far as that goes. However, we know that the banks will be closed. I don't know how voluntary it is. I know my bank's closed. I know a lot of banks will be closed for Monday, the 15th. So it may very well be that we look at John Q. Public, as I call them, starting next week, which could be as early as Tuesday. I've also said that the Forex, which we're looking for the Forex to come up with live rates, real rates, actual rates, and when that happens, let's say it happens Sunday night at midnight or maybe even Monday night at midnight, whenever that takes place, shortly thereafter, the public should be able to start and do exchanges through the normal Tier 1 and even Tier 2 banks. Okay, so those of us who are waiting on this toll-free number to come through, like the 6.5 million that are out there holding currency, not part of a certain group, but are part of the larger internet group, we're waiting for the 800 number to begin to set our appointment to be able to go in and use the well over 5,500 redemption centers in the U.S., not including Canada. So we're waiting on that so that we can go do that exchange, which my understanding is that could happen literally at any time. I think that could happen even if the banks are closed on Monday. I believe the redemption centers could be open. So if we do get this sooner, then theoretically we could begin setting our appointments and go in. I don't think we have to wait 3 or 4 days to begin our exchanges if we get the 800 number first. If we get it prior, we should be able to set our appointments and go fairly quickly. That's been my understanding. So we'll see how that works out. We'll see whether or not we do get more and better information. We'll see whether Iraq does change their rate tomorrow on their CBI, and we'll see whether or not certain areas of the world their blackout may go away, including the Middle East. It's not just Iraq. A lot of the neighboring countries have also gone dark, which is interesting and indicative of other things. I know that you guys probably know that the rates that are on the currencies that we're holding ready for our exchange or redemption in the case of the ZIM, they're still populated to where they're quite high. Some of them have been traded on futures type trading or preloading, and some have populated and shown rates, and some we're still waiting to get, we're pretty much waiting to get accurate numbers on all of them, but every indicator is that the rates, even on the screen rates that we see will be quite strong for us. So I wouldn't stress that, and don't even worry about the rates. You still can pre-negotiate, privately negotiate your ZIM and other currencies at the time of your exchange if you use the redemption centers. And one thing else to keep in mind is, and I think it has to do with the idea of keeping an original wet signature in the blue color ink that you want to use. Make sure you take a couple of blue pens and a couple of black pens to your redemption appointment. Okay, just take a couple of each, because you may want to use the blue pens to sign original documents or anything that you might sign off on. Other than that, guys, I think you're ready in terms of exchange. I would say this. The one thing that I'm finding out about and listened to a report the other day on is when it comes to our projects like Rebuild America and obviously working with the veterans on the Veterans Retreat Network, all of that, it's important. We're going to need very well-trained people building this country back. And by that I mean when we rebuild America, so many of the trades are going to be tight as far as having personnel to fill those jobs. I think we're going to have plenty of jobs available. I hope we have enough people to fill those positions, like welders. For infrastructure's sake, we need welders, we need steel workers, we need concrete forming people that know how to work with concrete. Those are great positions, and they start out really with a great hourly pay that can go up quite quickly as they're certified further and further in the process. We're going to need carpenters, plumbers, electricians, masons. We need engineers, and I understand there may be enough design engineers, and hopefully there are, because we should have plenty of jobs for them moving forward with all the bridges and design work and road work and everything that needs to be done. I just want to let you know our intention is going, any veteran that needs a job, we will be able to either put into a scholarship-free trade school type environment so that they'd be able to learn a new trade or improve a trade maybe that they already have, and then we'll certainly employ every veteran that's looking for work between our Veterans Retreat networks and between Rebuild America. I don't think we'll have any veteran that, and much less almost anyone else that needs a job, I believe we'll be able to put to work. Even if it's in an apprenticeship type role, as they learn a trade, sometimes they can do that hands-on. I mean, I was thinking about when it comes to concrete, you know, the way you learn really about concrete is to get in there and get in the middle of it while the concrete pour is going on. When it comes to wire or tying wire or rebar or anything like that, sometimes you literally have to get your boots wet and get in there and get in the concrete and start pouring it and floating it and learning how to make all that work. That's the kind of on-the-job training that we can work with in an apprenticeship type situation. And really, when it comes to running wire in homes, in buildings, that's where an apprentice or an electrician's helper can come in and kind of slowly learn that trade as well. And that's the kind of thing I believe we'll be able to hire people. So many millennials, for example, may be coming out with college degrees and just have nowhere to go. Hopefully we can put those guys to work as well for us. And but anybody that's seriously considering trades or the trade school, I think that what we're going to try to do is put together scholarship programs for anyone that wants to learn those important trades that will help rebuild America. So I just wanted to run that by you guys again and give you that piece. Obviously, we're looking to get the toll-free number any time now, and when we do get that, I'll put it out through